Hello and welcome to Elo Hell Get Good. My name is Airborne. I am joined today by Gunther.
So today we're casting Get Good NA. We have some really fun matches coming up ahead of us. Right now, we're going to be watching Bonkers versus Rose Apollo, and then later on, we'll end up seeing Grav9 versus Five Man Reds.
Definitely. And those are going to be some fun games. And before we get started, we really want to thank ExpressVPN for sponsoring Get Good today. And just to go ahead and start with the introductions for these teams. We can kind of maybe look at these rosters a little bit. And I'm very excited to kind of get back into the swing of things with Get Good. Definitely looking forward to seeing this game in the advanced division. We're going to be seeing a little bit higher level of play, and starting with Bonkers, we're gonna see looking at the DPS line with Segi and Let Melon.
Yeah,
I'll put them in and
yeah.
start.
Sorry, continue.
Oh, you're fine. No, and then going on with the tank line, we're gonna get Arsenic and Doc Dangles, and finishing off with the support line, the backbone of the majority of most teams, as you would well know. We're gonna have Key Gaming and Slow King.
And on the side of Rose Apollo for the DPS, we have Duffel Bag and Clean Linens. And on their tank line, we have Bowery and Beagle. I like the alliteration there. And for their support lane, we have Whiskers and Little Lad. Both teams, when they talk about what heroes they like and what kind of comps they like, we see a little bit of stuff all over the place. I personally don't really know what to expect coming into this because both of these teams could throw some curveballs. The meta's still in a pretty fluid place. And starting off, especially on these Koth maps where you see a lot of stuff change, and I'm on a map like Busan where we're going to be starting today, you can really see a lot of different comps come out on all of these different maps. We see a lot more of these brawl comps on mecha base. We see a lot more of those open poke comps on maps like that Sanctuary, and then we can see a lot of different stuff on that downtown area, just depending upon what teams feel really comfortable with. I think this is a really good map to show us what people want to play going forward, as this map has a lot of good comfort picks.
It does really have a lot of good comfort picks, and I very much look forward. And it looks like we're going to be starting. With their tank line, so we're going to see what they kind of come out with on this one. I very much anticipate we're going to get maybe some long range.
Yeah, this map has a lot
of ready for battle.
And then on Rose Apollo, we have a little bit of a double shield wall going on. I'm a big fan of able to really stop that push from Bonkers and that double combo.
Five, four, three, two, one. Round one. Capture the objective.
Gives away your position immediately, and looks like we're going to get a quick pause.
And now that we see that Rose Apollo have control at this point, it's going to be so much more difficult for Bonkers to approach, just due to the fact that, and we see them swapping over to the Rhine, so we might be seeing a bit more of a rush or a bit more of a brawl style comp. But we see the way that Rose Apollo is able to hold these, all of these different angles at the same time. They have Turret covering one place. They have Lucio trying to box out the flankers. They have Ashe covering an angle. They have, these pull dynamites going on. And there's all of these different places where when Bonkers want to approach, they're going to be taking damage no matter what. So either they need to make a strong, decisive engagement to push into Rose Apollo, or they need to try and win that poke battle somehow, or set up some kind of aggressive play with their DPS going for some kind of burst.
That's exactly what I think they need to do. And I think either Segi or Letmelon, I think that's, I'm gonna go. They'll correct me later, don't worry. But I think one of them really needs to get a pick, and I think the Ashe kind of off on her own. Like Segi had the right idea, but he was too far away from that Ashe to really do any type of damage. He kind of went for the Baptiste, kind of couldn't focus on a target, and I feel like that was just first engagement jitters. You don't know how they're gonna play, you don't know how they're gonna go for it. So I think right now they just need to maybe focus on getting that range damage out of Cleanliness, because he was a little bit separated from his team, but we'll see how he plays from now on, now that they have control of the point, and he can be a little bit more comfortable.
Exactly. It's also the way that Duffelbag's turret is really able to box out the poke damage, or box out and poke off the flankers of Bonkers. So we saw how Letmelon and Segi were trying to set up for some kind of dive, and the turret was just either grabbing attention or boxing them out and making it hard for them to push in properly. When you don't have, those super duper long range shields like a Zenyatta orb, it's sometimes harder to keep those flankers up. The packs of Key Gaming still doing a really good job, but overall, Bonkers just weren't able to take the decisive engagement they were looking for. And like we said, we see them swapping back to this Reinhardt now, but I don't know if it's going to be that Key Gaming goes over to a Lucio and tries to play more aggressively, or if they just want to keep with this comp. I think without a Lucio, it'll be really difficult for Bonkers to approach properly, just due to all of the spam damage that Rose Apollo is able to properly put out. But maybe clever use of angles, or a well-coordinated dive between the two DPS players could provide dividends.
Oh yeah, and I think that's one of the biggest things you also have to worry about with that one. If they're going to make like wholesale switches, they need to have heroes that complement that tank line, because if that tank line is stuck in the middle of nowhere, they're just going to get eaten alive by that just spam damage that the Torbjorn, his turret, and the Orisa can put down.
Exactly. The fact that there's so much shield break just coming out of Rose Apollo's comp, it seems incredibly difficult for Bonkers to approach with what they have. It's exactly that. There's just all of these incredibly long sightlines that Bonkers needs to push across, and if Rose Apollo play it properly, they're able to hold all of this, these massive distances. Where if Bonkers want to approach, just like mathematically, it's nigh impossible because of how much damage Rose Apollo is just able to properly put out.
I think another thing that Bonkers also has to watch out for is if they're going to make wholesale changes, maybe sticking with the Tracer Sombra DPS line may not be the best idea.
Exactly. If you're trying to go for this kind of more brawly frontline with a Rein Zarya, sometimes, maybe if you want to run a Kree Tracer, that could be really good. One flanker and one more frontline brawly DPS. As we sometimes see Reaper Tracer, we sometimes see Reaper Sombra, we sometimes see Kree Sombra, but running that double flanker, that Tracer Sombra with this kind of frontline might be suboptimal.
Most definitely. And I think they're trying to contact you, Gunther. The voices in her head are. But very much looking forward, because this is only the first fight, and we're really breaking this down. We're very much breaking this down, but we can already see the disaster that can come from kind of making like halfway wholesale changes. And kind of starting with this, and it looks like we're going to go in, and immediately Bonkers is going to come in and destroy and just completely eliminate everybody in Rose Apollo. Switching over to that Hanzo, looks like it made quite the difference, and now they have an EMP and a Dragons almost on the line, and they're already going to have a Graviton Surge. So this could be very bad for Rose Apollo. Immediately talking about what could go wrong for Bonkers, but Bonkers immediately flipping it around and getting the advantage. And right now, Letmelon is going to come in, waiting for that EMP so they can strike. Maybe they use all three of their ultimates at once, but I feel like this is one of the times where you could win with just an EMP.
Yeah, Bonkers has enough ults where if they cycle it properly, it's going to be really difficult. And huge hack.
That's a huge hack. He can't use beat drop anymore. And they're going to live right through that, but they're just going to get closed in on by Bonkers. And now they know that he has that beat drop, and they're really going to do everything in their power to stop him from using it. And they did end up using the Graviton Surge and the Dragons. So they did use 2 ultimates, but they still have that EMP in the back of their pocket with Arsenic coming up on the Earth Shatter. But they do have to be careful. They still do have the beat drop, even if they know that they have it. And they do have a huge supercharger that could swing any fight, because superchargers are so powerful.
This entire next fight is the cat and mouse game between Let Melon and Little Lad, and we see Segi already taking out Clean Linen, so that's going to be Rose Apollo probably getting back and looking to reset, but it all depends upon how Little Lad is able to play around Let Melon's EMP. Let Melon's starting to go for it right now.
There it is! Oh, and an Earth Shatter coming through. Do apologize for cutting you off there, my friend, but an Earth Shatter coming through with the EMP and completely wiping out Rose Apollo. Trying last second Shatter in defiance, taking out his co-Reinhardt, but not going to be enough, and the Bob stopped by his own Maywall.
Little Lad not able to properly get out that beat drop when we see, Bonkers going for that, big EMP play, and that is one of those matchups as a main support, as a Lucio player, that you need to constantly be having in the back of your mind. Where's their Sombra playing? Where are they going to use EMP? When does it feel like they're going to use EMP? And you need to constantly be thinking about that. Otherwise, we see situations like that show up.
Yeah, and you having experience playing, I know you actually played a lot of Zenyatta. You played a lot of Zenyatta, and I completely understand that you've also probably had to play that cat and mouse game as a Zenyatta with your Transcendence as well.
Yeah, once or twice.
Just a few times. And
I really like seeing how Bonkers is sticking with this Hanzo. We see Segi sticking with this Hanzo, and how it works really well for them. And we see Rose Apollo swapping over to this McCree brawl, which has a lot of really strong poke potential. I like Bowery going over to the Diva, maybe able to look for targets with Little Lad. But Bonkers just able to seemingly take a lot more angles than them right now, rotating over to point, which might be a little difficult considering how Rose Apollo is able to spam, and Rose Apollo starting to push in already.
Definitely already starting to push in already, but Bonkers really already has control of the point. And Let Melon is going to go down to the McCree, and that's going to be one huge pick. No more hacks available. And the McCree is just going to come and get 2. The Hanzo in the backline taking down the Baptiste, but looks like the McCree is just going to go hunting today.
Clean Linen's doing a really good job dealing with Let Melon's Sombra. If we look, Let Melon's only 21% to EMP. EMP is one of those ults you want to get early, and then you want to keep it cycling. But because Clean Linen's was able to properly, box out that Sombra, and none of the damage that Bonkers did was able to kill anybody on the side of Rose Apollo. We see Whiskers probably having the square already, and I think just based on the way these angles play, if Whiskers is able to properly use this amplification matrix, Bonkers is just going to get ripped now.
Little Lad taking down Let Lemon, and the Shatter is going to come out, not going to catch anybody. And now they're just going to be able to push in, slowly taking down the members of Bonkers. That's 2 fights in a row where Let Lemon was taken down first. One by the Lucio, one by the McCree. Looks like they're really looking out for that Sombra. That's a great adjustment by Rose Apollo.
Yeah, Bowery on the Diva doing a really good job of spy checking, which is one of the most important things you can honestly be doing on Diva in these matchups. And Bonkers coming into this fight, they don't really have a lot going for them. They can try and play aggressively with the run, but Rose Apollo have so many of those check marks on their side that even this Blizzard coming out early, maybe if it's suboptimal, that's still huge because they have so many ults to burn.
Yeah, they're going to be putting into the Dragons into this fight. Bonker's going to be getting the Diva out of mech and immediately eliminating her. There goes the spy check, but we're going to have the High Noon, the Deadeye, coming out, not catching anybody, eaten by the Zarya and the rest of the Maywall. And now they're just going to come in. Arsenic hopefully landing a Shatter. Going to be able to land it on the Baptiste. He's not able to finish off that kill. He's going to get surrounded and taken down. Let Lemon really trying to get those hacks off, and the Diva Bomb comes out, gets one EMP coming out. I think that was a bit late, not really going to be doing too much, and looks like Bonkers is going to be cleared off the point. They started that fight off so well, and I feel like they wasted that EMP near the end of that fight.
Rose Apollo committed so many ults to that fight, which didn't get a lot of value, and even pushing back into this, Bonkers don't really have a lot to work with. Just this beat drop, not even the Graviton coming out yet for Dark Dangles.
They're going to be coming in, trying to hit point. Overtime has been initiated, 99-0. Immortality Field coming out, and Bonkers is going to be pushing on to point with this beat drop, building up their own ultimates, just clearing out this point, but they're going to be starting at 0. So, got the kill with the sleep dart. Heck yeah.
Rose Apollo committing so much in that fight before last and not getting a lot out of it. Bonkers, we now see the ult economy starting to flip in their favor. They have that nano boost again. They have that graviton surge. You grab Nano Ryan, that's a fight win. You get a good shatter, that's a fight win. And that time you farm your EMP, that's a fight win. If Bonkers are able to properly cycle ults coming into this, it doesn't matter how good Little Lad plays around with that EMP or around with that sound barrier. It's going to be, you know, it's just going to be the end.
Oh, here comes the shatter, just as you said. That's a huge shatter, getting 3. Immortality field is going to be coming out, but Arsenic is going to get the pin, and it looks like Bonkers is going to win this fight with that huge shatter. And Rose Apollo used their Blizzard directly into that fight, so they weren't able to get any value. They still have both support ultimates, but there goes one of the bigger DPS ultimates in this fight, and now we have a Pulse Bomb that could easily take out one of the 2 supports. And we also have a Graviton Surge that's just a fight winner in itself, if used correctly.
That was a really good attempt from Duffelbag with the defensive Blizzard. It just didn't really end up in the way that the team was looking at it. And now we see Segi sneaking here next to the Asleep Baptiste.
Oh, the Graviton Surge was eaten! Graviton Surge was eaten. We're going to see this fight just slowly going down. They were able to eat this Graviton Surge, but not really going well for them. But they were able to get that Graviton Surge off of the board, though losing the fight. They have maybe 1 or 2 fights to come into here. They do have to watch out for that Shatter and now that EMP. And now that we were talking earlier, you said EMP Shatter is easily a fight winner. So that could be their guaranteed win condition right now, because it looks like there may be actually only 1 fight left.
This is really last fight territory here. We see Duffelbag swapping over to this Pharah, which could potentially be good if they just play for this long-range spam damage. But overall, it really seems like Bonkers has so many tools to work with here. Huge EMP Shatter coming out.
Oh, EMP Shatter is just going to swing, and it's going to get to 98%, and they're not going to be able to touch point. Bonkers taking the first map. Oh, 99-0, completely coming back, flipping the point, and not giving them even a chance to touch point. That was a great game by Bonkers. Both teams adjusted very, very well, but Bonkers seems to adjust, I guess, the best, you could say.
Of course, Rose Apollo both times, considering Sanctuary as well, they came out with a really strong presence in those early fights, and you know, on that city center, on that downtown, they were able to keep that rolling for a moment. But it just ended up being that they weren't able to hold on to that advantage. They weren't able to make use of the territory that they were controlling, the angles that they had control over.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't really seem like they were pushing up very often to spam Bonkers on their walk up, you know, waste their resources. And overall, it just seemed like when Bonkers were able to close the distance and they were able to, you know, take those fights that they were looking for, that their comps were really built for, it was just, you know, that matchup was so favored for them, considering how Rose Apollo didn't really have the comp matchups for it.
Yeah, and I feel like Rose Apollo is definitely going to come out. Now that we kind of know how both of the teams are going to play, Rose Apollo is definitely going to come out and have a little bit more adjusted in this next map, because the next map we're going to be going to is going to be Route 66. And this is going to be probably one of my favorite escort maps, personally. I don't know how you feel about it.
I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of most of the escort maps, because I think that overall they have a lot of room for like compositional freedom and interesting swaps in order to, you know, win those late fights, where you'll see like those long-term overtime fights where somebody like swaps ball and we swap a tracer, and then you have 3 people come back from spawn and they're able to win that overtime fight. I think Escort is really the game mode that allows for that the most, just because of how the maps are often built. Route 66 is really interesting, just in the sense of it's kind of a 2-plane map where you have the ground level, and then you have like a second level of different areas above it, and pretty much everywhere on the map is always looking down at that ground level. And I think it's really interesting just to watch how teams have to play around that and the rotations they have to take. I think the way you see teams take first point is really interesting, just how they control that high ground or control that low ground. And I like to see the rotations on this map a lot.
And they're very good rotations. There's a lot of strategies that you could come in and do with this map. And I'm very excited to see how both teams kind of attack this, because we did see a little brief moment of the double bubble, but it eventually gave way into the brawl comp. So let's see if let's see if Bonkers again tries that double bubble comp and see if we get a little bit more of the Winston maybe attacking that high ground. But also another thing is we are going to get a side swap. So both teams are going to swap sides, and we're also Bonkers is going to make a couple of changes. They did make a substitution. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, we see Melted Solid coming in for the tank line of Bonkers. So just interested to see, how that really, I guess, is, or just how that's what they want to run. We often see, substitutions coming in for specialist heroes or specialist roles, not necessarily always on the tank line, usually in the DPS side. So I'm just interested to see how they think, different substitutions and everything are going to work out for them.
And we'll see what they kind of go for on this Route 66 map. This may even change up their entire comp. Who knows? No, very excited to go forward with this one.
And oftentimes on these escort maps, and I think Route 66 is is one of the more safe maps in that regard, but we often see these snowball abilities on some maps like Gibraltar, when you see teams take first and they push up through second and they're able to like rip the other team in half and take second for free. We don't often see that on maps like Route 66. I think on Route 66 specifically, there's a lot of these safety nets which allow teams to get some good clean engages off, even if they lost earlier fights and are potentially down in alt economy. Potentially if people push up into their spawn, it's okay because of how far back you can spawn. You're able to properly regroup and push in. So regardless of how the attack or defense actually goes for both sides, it looks like we're going to be seeing a lot of fights overall on this map.
Most definitely. And with the kind of back and forth that we saw in Busan, control maps are a very, very hard indicator of how a match is going to go.
Exactly. On King of the Hill, it's very interesting to see how teams play around that limited time and that limited ult economy, and that's often their way they adapt to that and play around that is often indicative of their overall macro understanding of the game. So when Bonkers makes that really intelligent swap, they change up their comp. That's a really good move from them, and that's able to push them in a much better direction.
We're going to be losing the Sombra and going over to the Echo. Though, let's not focus too much on Bonkers. That could definitely change. Sege switching back over to the Sombra. Rose Apollo going to be coming out with a Ryan Diva Hanzo Tracer. So we're probably going to see this Tracer try and take down Slow King a little bit more, especially after he got play of the game last map. So we probably don't want to see another support play of the game. That's probably what they're worried about.
Rose Apollo going up for this close hold. Haven't seen this in a good minute. But with these incredibly strong spam DPS, as we see Duffelbag swapping over to that Hanzo, there's just going to be so much damage coming out of Rose Apollo. But Bonkers are on a good comp to deal with that.
Definitely, and we're going to see them come through, and Hecka already knows exactly where they are, so they're going to immediately jump onto this brawl comp, and that... Oh, the Biotic Grenade going to hit immediately, even not able to eat it. They're going to have to back out, immediately losing their main tank. So they're going to lose a little bit of ground to this team. This double bubble coming out for Bonkers, and they're just going to clean house, though this is a close hold, so they do have a chance to come back and recontest, but Let Melon immediately paying dividends with that Echo.
On maps and scenarios like this, you see these teams going for these spawn camps, not because they expect to win the first fight or the second fight, but because of the amount of time they're able to waste. We see Rose Apollo swapping over to a Winston and an Echo, is going more of a dive composition, so kind of nullifying the advantage that they would have with that brawl comp, being able to stall for long periods of time and get a lot of fights on point, resetting their ult economy. This could be really bad for Rose Apollo.
This really could be really bad, but they have to try and get a pick immediately, especially if they're going to come in with this little, with a negative ult advantage. An ult deficit. There we go. That's the word. And Winston immediately getting picked out for Bonkers. So that's the exact pick they needed. They're Winston getting caught out, and now they're able to hold a little bit better, not having to worry about the Winston jumping onto them, and Zarya not really getting any charge. Though she's already up at 75 charge, and Ooh, Bonkers losing their Tracer. Segi going down with his Pulse Bomb, but Letmelon coming in with the Winston duplicate. So we're going to see if we can get some damage with that Winston. Right now, Doc just kind of chilling on Big Earl's getting the damage done, and he's going to kill too. Oh, now it's just moving on.
That was really well done from Doc. He kind of planted his feet on high ground and just said, you guys need to push me off. And this is just cleanup duty at this point. High energy Zarya is one of those characters which is just going to get stronger as the fight goes on, because they're going to keep that energy up and they're going to be able to use their bubbles more defensively as opposed to just trying to get energy. And because of that, you don't have these windows where they're in a bad position and you get to find them without a bubble and you can just roll them over. You need to invest a lot of resources into killing them. But like I said earlier, we have that safety net. Bonkers not able to push up and kill all of Rose Apollo. Rose Apollo are able to get another good contest coming out.
And Melted Solid gonna go in. Watch that Winston go in with the Nano Boost into the backline, trying to take down Slowking, but they're gonna get pushed back by Melted Solid. Get off my support! And they are going to pop an ultimate right off the bat. So we got both teams kind of popping ultimates. Rose Apollo still kind of at that ult deficit. And Beagle going to be taken down by the Echo focusing beam. And Tracer up top taking down the Ana. And now it's just slowly falling apart for Rose Apollo. They got to get out and quick. Pulse Bomb coming in, taking down the Zarya. And they're going to push forward, but I think Rose Apollo definitely still has time to contest it right before we get point for 3, and that's exactly what you were talking about.
That was a really good absorption from Bonkers with that nanoed Winston. Beagle maybe messing up a little bit, wasn't able to properly drop the bubble in order to block the sleep dart, but happens to the best of us. Coming back into this next fight, Rose Apollo have a lot of those check marks. They have some big ults, they have that grab, they have that duplicate, and maybe, able to catch Bonkers with their pants down because they have a few ults, but realistically, Rose Apollo can burn a lot more into this fight.
They get that duplicate Graviton Surge in. I'm gonna completely trap and negate that duplicate. And now we're kind of just looking at this, looking forward, and I'm kind of just looking at this fight, slowly breaking down, seeing who gets the first pick in this fight, and that's really gonna decide where this goes out. Segi chasing down Tracer, but Ferrari and Duffelbag going down immediately. Bonkers just taking down one after another. And looks like we're gonna be able to get to over 2.3.
Rose Apollo with an early attempt to trade those backlines when we saw those duplicates going out, but a really strong Graviton Surge coming out from Doc Dangles was able to, stop that duplicate. It was able to stop that Winston, and we see Rose Apollo swapping over to this double shield brawl comp. You see a lot of these swing or pull swings that is really, really strong. And we see Bonkers swapping over to the Rhine here, so maybe indicative of a larger comp swap coming after some of these ultimates are used. But realistically, Rose Apollo should be able to run over Bonkers and win this fight.
They really should be able to, and kind of looking forward to this. We got the swap to McCree, so we're going to see how well that goes with this swap.
Rose Apollo playing much too safe to really get a lot done this fight, just sitting very far back, letting Bonkers poke into them, which is what Bonkers wants with this Echo Mercy.
They're definitely going to be poking into them. They're kind of sitting a little bit too far back, letting them have a little bit too much space to get the damage that they want to get. I think they, like you're saying, they really need to push in on them, get as much damage as possible. Don't give them any of that free room, and they're just going to keep going. Now they're just going to start, Rose Apollo's just going to start throwing bodies onto point to hope to contest this.
It's just so much damage coming out from the side of Bonkers with this damage boosted Echo. We see this duplicate onto Rhine now. Rose Apollo making all of these swaps to try and come back and contest. We see Clean Lemons on the Doom, who goes down. We saw Beagle go on Rhine, he went down. We see Little Lad going down. And this is just one of those desperate stall situations where realistically, maybe there's a glimmer of hope to win that fight. But at the end of the day, you all know that the cap is coming.
Of course the cap is coming.
It was really questionable to see how Rose Apollo just played. So they have that Lucia, they have that Reinhardt. They're playing a comp which excels when they get into those close scenarios. You have the frontline push in, you have the pull come out, you have the pull fire strikes, you have Duffelbag coming in from an off angle on the Tracer, and you're able to really collapse on a team, especially when Bonkers don't have that Lucio to properly maneuver around the map. But Rose Apollo just played incredibly safe. They seemed very scared. Maybe there was some mistracking in the ult department, so they thought that Bonkers might have had something they didn't. But overall, it just ended that Bonkers were able to have a very comfortable time bank of 225 coming into this.
Yeah, they have a very comfortable time, and I'm kind of looking forward to their defense as well, because that could be a huge win for them, especially if especially I do apologize, especially if Rose Apollo keeps playing so passive and just getting poked down by Bonkers, because I think that was Bonkers, as you said, that's exactly what Bonkers want. They want to be able to take you at a distance, chunk you down before you even get to them, and then immediately go in and take you down when you're already at 50 HP.
Exactly. And a lot of how Rose Apollos takes this attack, I think, is going to be up to Duffel Bag and the way they're able to pressure out some of those backline members, maybe baiting Melted Salt into pushing in too far, and then you have your Tracer jump on Slow King. But realistically, in these kind of, more brawl versus double bubble dive scenarios, Rose Apollo need to be the aggressor here.
Definitely. And just give me one moment. I'm having a little bit of technical difficulties.
And we see, it's perfectly fine. And we see, Duffel Bag pushing up, taking a little bit of poke damage. But realistically, this is just one of those poke matchups where Rose Apollo is able to consistently push a point. Bonkers not able to do much. And Letmelon maybe overextends a little bit, gets taken down by Duffel Bag. And overall, this fight just seems to be that now Bonkers is starting to crumble. We see the front line of Bonkers start to go down. Slow King not able to properly keep up Melted Solid. And the DPS of Rose Apollo are now just kind of, bouncing around, looking for different things. And we see Melted Solid swap over to that Rhine, trying to come back as quickly as they possibly can. Letmelon just pumping out damage from that high ground, trying to stop the push of Rose Apollo as much as possible. And at this point, it just seems like they're slowly losing this battle of attrition. We see Letmelon swap to a Lucio duplicate and pushing in with the speed boost. That's an incredibly smart play coming out from Letmelon, with Bonkers able to push in incredibly aggressively and just run over Clean Linens, and the rest of Rose Apollo has to run back. That was a really smart play coming out from Letmelon to duplicate that Lucio and play an impromptu Goats comp for a moment. But even so, Bonkers coming into this next fight, they don't have a lot outside of that to work with. Yes, you have that Graviton Surge, but Rose Apollo have that Lamp. They have, maybe a defensive bomb. They have that beat drop. So there isn't really a lot that they're going to be able to do with that grab. They need some other kind of setup here. But Rose Apollo, still, they need to get to point. They're pushing under right now, and just with so much damage coming out from the side of Bonkers, ripping Duffel Bag in half, ripping Little Lad in half, and sure, maybe there's a trade kill coming out, but overall, it just seems like Bonkers are really in control in this brawl matchup, maybe just because of how Rose Apollo aren't able to properly take those rotations. They have 6 ultimates coming into this fight, but realistically, there's not a lot that Rose Apollo are able to do here now that Bonkers is set up properly. And looking at this compositionally, it feels like Bonkers should be at a strong disadvantage, but just due to the lack of the Lucio on their comp and how there isn't enough there isn't the same kind of brawl DPS, but they're just winning these one-on-one matchups. We see Duffel Bag, kind of, pushing Segi out a lot. We see how, like, Clean Linens completely absorbed there. It's all just that one-on-one matchups that Bonkers is able to consistently do very well in. And realistically here, it's just the same thing. Bonkers coming in again and again, just running over Rose Apollo. Rose Apollo not able to take those proper rotations. We haven't really seen good beat drops come out from Little Lad, and because of how long it's taken for Rose Apollo to properly push back in, Bonkers have so many of those ultimates back again. They have that Shatter again. They're coming up on this duplicate soon. They have that Nano boost. Grab Nano Ryan can just win a fight for free. Good aggressive bomb coming out maybe because Bonkers don't really have a lot of tools to reposition properly. But overall, it just seems like Rose Apollo not able to properly, have control of this fight. Having a little bit of technical difficulties on my end too. Bonkers coming out with the win there in the end, just able to hold off Rose Apollo for such an incredibly long time using those cycling ult economies. It was a really, strong showing coming out there from Bonkers. We see the next map is coming into King's Row, so teams are going to be sticking sides, probably Bonkers attacking first again. And I love King's Row for this specific reason, as we've seen in this matchup. Both teams swapping over to be very comfortable in these brawl comps. Both teams, playing a lot of Rhine. But overall, I'm interested to see how they do, considering the support matchups that we've been seeing a lot. As we've seen on Bonkers side, a lot of the Mercy, as they've often been swapping back and forth from double bubble comps and back to this Rhine comps. Whereas realistically, when Rose Apollo roll out with those Lucio comps, we see the way that they're able to or when they roll out on those brawl comps, we see the way that they're able to keep that Lucio and maybe have a rotational advantage, not maybe making the most out of it because Bonkers have, 2-0 up at this point. But there's still a lot that Rose Apollo have a lot in their toolbox. It's not over for them. It's just incredibly difficult. But both teams are going to have time to think about what they want to run. Both teams are going to have time to think about what they want to play and how they want to play those things. We're going to be moving to a short intermission, and then we'll see the end of this match after.
Welcome back. That was weird. We're just gonna say I died there for a second. Props to Gunther for just making this entire thing work.
It happens. Sometimes technical difficulties occur. That's how it is sometimes. Bonkers taking that map in incredibly convincing fashion, I'd say, just, rolling over with that really strong time bank and then able to hold Rose Apollo on that first point. This is one of those very interesting games to me where realistically, just like looking at compositional matchups and some of the rotations and ways that teams are playing, it feels like Rose Apollo should have a really good strong fighting chance in this. But overall, Bonkers has just time and time again thwarted their pushes, won those 1v1s. In those individual those skill checks, those one-on-one skill checks, Bonkers has consistently come out on top.
Yeah, and from what I saw, while my computer wasn't having a stroke, and from what I saw, really Bonkers was able to take the initiative, and it seemed like they were able to kind of, at the same time, Rose Apollo was kind of playing into their hands, but I feel like Bonkers also kind of forced the issue where they got them on the back foot and never let them back onto solid ground.
Exactly. There were a lot of chances, especially I think on Bonkers attack, where they would, convincingly take a space. They would convincingly win a fight, and then they would set up for the next fight in a way that wasn't really, weakening their position or letting Rose Apollo do some kind of sneaky rotation. It was really well done. It was just, good understanding of map knowledge. And while there are, a few holes in Bonkers' plan, a few flaws in their strategy that Rose Apollo might look to exploit here, and especially with this long break, they have some time to think about those things. It's going to be interesting to see how Rose Apollo really respond with how convincing Bonkers has been so far.
I'm very excited to see King's Row. It's honestly one of my favorite maps overall. As I said, Escort, probably top two are probably Route 66 and maybe Blizzard World. A lot of people don't like Blizzard World. I love it, but whatever. Well, that's a conversation for another day. But King's Row is definitely one of my favorite maps because there's so many compositions that you can play here, but generally the base one is always going to be.
Yeah, we see both teams starting out here on these more brawly comps. Rose Apollo on this much more poke-oriented version of this comp, which I think is incredibly strong. The use of, pull fire strikes, pull swings, it'll let Rose Apollo really try to run over Bonkers and play aggressively if that's what they choose to do. And Bonkers on a bit of more a very aggressive support line and tank line, and then a little more pokey DPS. Kree can go either way, but Hanzo definitely more in the poke factor. So I think this is really going to come down to how many teams or how much damage these shields take before teams push it.
Definitely have to worry about that Lucio. Beagle definitely has to worry about getting swarmed off by Bonkers just rushing in with that Lucio. But right now I think we're looking for a pick, and they're looking for scouting a little bit. Hanzo going to be putting a sonar arrow down, looking to see if he can catch someone out from behind that shield. And he's going to go directly for anybody. They're going to notice him into Hotel. They're going to start chasing him out of Hotel. But looks like Bonkers is going to be immediately taking control of point. And Bowery going down by Lebanon. And there goes There goes Letmelon getting both tanks down at the hands of the Hanzo. They're gonna get pushed right off a point. They were not able to really get any of that chip damage or any of those picks, and they're just gonna get pushed all the way back to their spawn.
That was really, really strong communication on the side of Bonkers. We saw that as Letmelon went in, the rest, Arsenic pushed up, Key Gaming amped in, and they were able to, push over Rose Apollo really convincingly because of how they split the attention of Rose Apollo's backline. Super strong job taking that first point. We have this Dragon coming up soon. We have this Nano Boost coming up soon. Bonkers taking so much space here, able to push to this last corner, and this is one of those times where potentially, if Rose Apollo don't push in aggressively enough, this is one fight territory.
Really, and this is what we were talking about on Route 66, where they were kind of just letting them kind of walk forward. I feel like they should take this fight up at this corner, to be completely honest. Don't let the cart come around. You can see the Hanzo coming around. They're going to immediately get tapped by the Mei, so he's going to back up a little bit. But they're going to let the cart kind of walk towards them, so they're going to have that healing. Hanzo back up top, no fear, no care. And he is going to get tagged by the Mei again. We're going to get a Nano Boost, and he's going to come behind and hit the Shatter. Not going to really hit anyone, but he's going to swing in. Clean Linens taking out 2, taking out 3, with the Reinhardt in the backline taking out the Arista. So Clean Linens just going to hopefully clean up the rest of the fight, keep his team from getting pushed back, and keeping Bonkers from clearing out.
It's a 3-for-3 trade here. It's a 3-for-3 trade here, and even so, this is still better for Bonkers as they have more spawns coming back. The only reason that Rose Apollo were holding on to this fight was because of how good Clean Linens was playing, and now a really good Blizzard coming out from Duffelbag.
2, and the Blizzard coming in. Little Lad coming back with his speed boost. Thankfully, they're gonna trade!
That entire fight, and even Senyi coming back now. What is this fight?
It doesn't end. It never ends!
This is
and he's just gonna go uncontested over here. Oh, they finally noticed him. Shield coming in, but both tanks are low, and they're not going to be able to stop them. Just the Hanzo Clean Linens facing a Lucio and a McCree. He has to be careful that he doesn't get pooped off a point. He's going to get stunned, and the nade going to be coming in, taking out Clean Linens. Just barely Little Lad coming back to stop this point. Duffelbag taking down Siggy, and now it's just going to be even more of a drawn-out fight. This is just going to keep going.
This is not an Overwatch fight. This is a boxing match. Both teams are, socking each other in the mouth, coughing up blood, going blow for blow here. Finally, Bonkers come out on top of this after what was a really strong early fight. Clean Linens comes back and gets 3. Duffelbag gets 3. But Bonkers just keep flooding onto this point and are able to win those one-on-one engagements. That was a couple of good plays coming out on the side of Rose Apollo, but overall, Bonkers felt more comfortable investing ult. They felt more comfortable winning those one-on-one engagements, and that was able to do a really good job for them. Rose Apollo have been playing so passive this whole time. We see them setting up on this high ground instead of playing as aggressively as they should be.
Careful! That was a huge amplified fire strike, and Bonkers just gonna back out. They're not gonna deal with that. I'll be the first to say I wouldn't deal with that either.
Really good understanding of the matchup coming out from Bonkers with how they, come back very safely. They don't really waste a lot of ults into that fight. But Rose Apollo have 5 of those check marks coming up here. So if they don't just get run over and T-pose for the rest of the match, then they're gonna have a really strong chance here in order to stop Bonkers and get a good hold.
Careful with that Shatter. Here comes the Dragon Strike, hopefully splitting the team, taking down Duffelbag. There goes one of their ultimates. Immortality is going to come out. Slowking, getting taken down more to really put out that Nano. But we're going to get the beat drop of that Shatter. Going to come down and get 4!
That was
They're
a huge
batter here.
Not going to be able to
follow up, though. Not going to be able to follow up, and now they're just kind of sitting there, waiting, just waiting. They're going to be pushed back. Rose Apollo. Bonkers not really being able to follow up. Little Lad taking down Arsenic, losing his Shatter in that fight. He got a huge Shatter, but just wasn't able to follow up. Beagle with that supercharger, putting out so much damage.
Slowking picked off early there, and that was really difficult for Bonkers. Key Gaming had to respond with that beat drop, and it just wasn't very good from there because they didn't have that sustain. One of the greatest things about using that supercharger so late in a fight is that you can use it to rebuild your other ults. So we see Blizzard coming up again. We see this amplification mixers coming up again, which is going to be really good, especially with Duffelbag engaging with it so early.
Yeah, and the Nano Boost is going to come out directly. Oh, they lose their Deadeye! Seki, now they just got to worry about the Nano Boosted Reinhardt, make sure he doesn't get anyone. So Eagle's going to be going down at the hands of the Zarya. Kind of on her own in that little room. They're kind of pushing forward. This is exactly what they need. They use that Nano Boost to gain space on the rest of Rose Apollo. And now Duffelbag going down. And now they have that Deadeye coming back. Amplification Nature's not really put in a great place, but they may be able to make some use out of it after all. Oh no, Rosario killing herself by her own splash damage. So Rose Apollo just barely able to hold that front, but now we have a Deadeye. We have a Deadeye and a Graviton Surge coming up.
It's so weird for Rose Apollo sometimes because every time they're able to hold on to this, it's just by the narrowest margins, and it doesn't even feel like they necessarily win a fight. It feels like Rose Apollo were barely able to set up there before Bonkers come back in.
They're being barely, but we do have a Dragon Strike coming out. Oh, Little Lad being taken down right before his beat drop. We're gonna get the Dragons coming out on both sides. Little Lad being taken down, but looks like the Dragon is going to be more effective on the side of Bonkers. And they're gonna push in relentlessly. Little Lad coming back from point, hopefully able to contest, but he's kind of just up in the air, you know. Lucio superiority, you know what I mean?
Yeah, dominance established. I find it really interesting how in that fight, Letmelon's dying breath, he got that Dragon Strike out and were able to try and close that fight for Bonkers. Once again, Bonkers capping this with a very certainly we see larger time banks coming out on King's Row, but that's certainly not anything bad. Full capping a map is always a good thing, regardless of the time bank that you have associated with it. And Rose Apollo simply just playing much too passively for the comps that they're running. It feels like they're trying to dare Bonkers to approach them, and then Bonkers approach them, and Rose Apollo says, "I didn't think you would get this far. Come on, man."
I've been there, done that. Yeah, I dare you. Okay. Oh, I didn't think we'd get this far.
It's just consistently that Rose Apollo is playing these comps, which excel at playing very aggressively, and then they just don't end up doing that. Bonkers are able to pick them apart and win a lot of those 1v1s and win a lot of those one-on-one matchups. And Rose Apollo may be throwing out a bit of a different look here. We'll see what they're really running, but I feel as if they need to be running something different. They need to try something different here because they've been consistently losing in these brawl matchups. It's not working for them.
I feel like they need to go more poke. And like they keep trying to play like a poke comp, but they're kind of running half brawl and not really taking that initiation. Like they're letting Bonkers initiate them on their own terms, on Bonkers' terms. And Bonkers is just winning each and every individual one of those fights because they're not getting chunked down as much. They're not getting halted when they should be. And it's kind of just like, I feel like they need to change it up and maybe go for straight poke or maybe all dive. Pick a target, go for the target, and finish it off.
And that's what we see coming out here. Rose Apollo swapping over to much more of this poke-oriented comp, which I think could be incredibly good for them. Very decentralized. There's no one for Rose Apollo, or there's no one for Bonkers to really rush out on. The only way that Rose Apollo dies is they overextend.
Oh, and it gets the Ana. Slowking going down. Bowberry, though, getting demexed, but I'll take that trade any day of the week. That's a huge amount of healing gone for Bonkers right now with that Pharah just continuing to rain down damage, and they're just slowly coming on the point. They do have to be careful for that McCree. He's coming up on that Deadeye so quickly, but they're going to start taking point. Bonkers regrouping very smartly, waiting for their Ana to come back to push in.
This is where that attrition really starts coming into effect. Bonkers able to try and push back in, getting some good trades here, but overall it just seems like Rose Apollo got what they wanted, and maybe they're going to try to constrict like a snake and take more.
They really need to. They did lose point control, but they do have a couple of ultimates coming into this one. Duffelbug does have to be careful for that Deadeye, because the moment that Duffelbag is in a place where he can't hide, you know that Deadeye's coming out. But we do have Beagle, hopefully to initiate this fight. He's going to come in, immediately go for that backline, try and distract them. And we're going to see if this barrage is going to be coming out. Nanaboo's coming out from Slowking, and Bowery going down. This McCree center of point, and there goes the Pharah counter, but Letmelon coming in on that Echo and doing so much damage. So Duffelbag takes down the Echo, and we're going to get a shatter, Little Lad. Okay, did we need that?
One of the biggest strengths of Rose Apollo's comp is how decentralized it is. There's nothing for Bonkers to really properly push on, but even with that happening, Segi doing a great job on that Kree, Letmelon getting a lot of really strong picks on that Echo, and it really just feels like Rose Apollo are getting stopped at every corner here. Big beat coming out from Key Gaming to push aggressively.
Gate damage but just going to be enough to save the wrecking point. Double Bag again taking down the Echo, but Double Bag finally going down to the Reinhardt of all people, but here comes the Diva Bomb, not going to be able to catch anybody, and right now Bonkers is going to come back onto point and clean up Rose Apollo. And they're just sitting pretty, and Segi with another Deadeye coming up. Beagle, way far in the back, and he's going to get chased down by that Echo. Probably not.
Bonkers just ping-ponging off of point, doing a really good job of trying to, stall for that time, understand when they need to get the resources back, when they need to heal up, wait for shields, and then pushing back in very aggressively. It feels like they're consistently baiting Rose Apollo into overextending onto point, and then being able to cut them apart when they get there. We see Clean Linen swapping over to that McCree, maybe trying to deal with that Echo, but now Bonkers have a target to push on. They have something that they can amp speed into, and that is going to be incredibly dangerous for Clean Linens.
That is going to be, and let Lemons going a little bit unnoticed. So we're going to get this. Going to catch the McCree, but Clean Linens, as you said, going down immediately. Both DPS down for Rose Apollo. There's nothing really there to hold them. Not enough damage to really take down that Reinhardt Zarya. That Zarya is such high charge, and there's some minefield from the Echo. Or the ball.
It's so...
The ball go.
The ball go. It's so tragic to see. Slowking Bustios, Segi instantly dies to the rocket barrage, and then Bonkers still end up winning that fight. It just feels like Rose Apollo aren't quite sure what to do at this point. Coming back into this, they swap over to a Mei, they swap over to a Roadhog, just trying to look for picks or do something, but I don't know if it's enough.
Immediately mated and can't really do much from that point. They were so close to capping point, but the high charge Zarya, 97 charge, just gonna walk forward 10 HP, who cares? Arsenic really getting the majority of the final blows, though.
Incredibly. It's just, the consistent cleanup. Bonkers just able to stop Rose Apollo in their tracks, and overall just coming up to a strong, very convincing 3-0. Bonkers consistently had answers for what Rose Apollo was trying to do. They won those one-on-one engagements. They won, those hero moments. And Rose Apollo showing signs of life. A lot of really strong DPS play coming out from Duffelbag. We saw Bowery doing a really good job at trying to have good control of the front line. But and we saw Clean Linens, picking up a few good kills. But overall, it was just very. Yeah, it feels like Rose Apollo were just outmatched in certain spaces, where that ended up being much more difficult for them to come back, just in the sense of it's like a dam. It can hold so much water, but then when the dam breaks, it's going to hold no water. Like, the teams can get evenly matched to a point, but once you go over that number, it doesn't matter how much there was, because now you're just over.
I feel like Rose Apollo really did have the skill to win that game. They had the players. It's just the way that they were playing. They were playing way too passively, letting Bonkers really dictate the pace of the game. And at a point where you're playing a team, Bonkers was in a very aggressive team. They knew what they needed to do. They wanted to play at their pace. They wanted that fast-paced, chaotic fight. They knew exactly what they had to do, and they got the picks when they needed them. And you cannot let a team like that dictate. You cannot let them dictate the pace of play, because the moment that they do that, it's
over. I was very impressed by Bonkers' ability to actually dictate that pace and understand their own flow. We saw them often giving up control of point for a period of time and then coming back in order to win that fight later on in the engagement. It was just a lot of really strong, very intelligent play coming out from them. It's what resulted in that in that 3-0.
Yeah, and it was honestly a very convincing 3-0. It was competitive at points, but Bonkers definitely looked like the better team throughout the entire game, with the coordination, with the controlled aggressiveness, with the controlled chaos that they showed. They knew when they were going to lose a fight, so they didn't even bother putting ultimates into the fight. They didn't even bother, going into the fight and going like, we're down by 2. We can see if we can win this. Nope. The moment that they were down and they felt like they were at a disadvantage, they did not waste the resources and they just got out of dodge.
Yeah, incredibly strong showing here from Bonkers. But I'm actually interested to look to our next match coming up later in the night between Grav9 and 5-Man Rez.
Which, but both sound like fun times. We, back in my day.
But that feels like, more to come very soon. I believe that match is supposed to be starting in maybe 10 minutes total, or maybe a little less.
A little less.
But we're probably going to be throwing to a short break really quick, but don't go anywhere too far, as we're going to be coming back to watch the game between Grav9 and 5